Before we dive into any of that, I would love for us to get to know who's in the space. Um, so, folks on Zoom, I'm going to have y'all check in, and then I'm going to have folks check in the space. And what I want you to do is talk to someone near you. And folks on Zoom, y'all are going to talk to each other. Talk to someone near you about this question. Say your name. You could say your pronouns if you would like to. And when was the last time you were in a place that was broken or being destroyed or being broken, but found beauty there in spite of that, right? So that could be a location, that could be a neighborhood, that could be a classroom, that could be a garden, that could be, I mean, if you really want to go deep, that could be like a relationship with someone. But when was the last time you were in a physical or relational or imaginative place, right? That was broken or in the process of um, being broken, but found beauty there, found like a glimpse of beauty or something useful or important, right? So think about that. It's a lot to think about, but consider that question and check in with someone near you. Your name, you can say your pronouns if you would like to, and when was the last time you were in a place that was broken or being broken, but found beauty there? Yeah? Okay, sounds good. And folks on Zoom, just check in with each other when you're ready. Folks on Zoom. So whoever wants to just dive in, have a conversation amongst yourselves. Yeah, yeah, maybe just recap the.
Queen Erickson, cheaper pronouns. Um, this is really complex. I feel like for me, so this we still be hard. So like I'm transracial adoptee, so I feel like my relationship, even being a black person in a white family, that's very much a broken relationship because I'm like I've never been one space for my blackness. At least not all the parts of my blackness, just the pieces that they can digest, right? So I feel like even just like existing in a relationship with my parents and my extended family is very much a broken piece, but it's also needed because I think when I started having a ability to communicate with other transracial adoptees, I was like, oh, someone is like, oh, maybe that can happen, but it can also be very painful and very easy. So trying to find with other people is not in like, not in like a, for lack of a better word, in trauma porn way, a lot of times not like suffering. So I try not to lean into that too much, right? But that's my very afraid. Right? The fact that the actual police station was on fire. It was broken. It was broken. Fire. Blade. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. Through the fire. So you can actually find. That's broken.
Can you tell me more about Broken Beauty?
Broke fire. So, was asking about like the last time you saw something beauty and something broken, and I immediately went to the riots when Floyd was killed, and Minneapolis we rose up and we rose together. Kind of, we broke the police station. We set it on fire. We broke into it. Like it was in shambles, but it felt so good to have that unity and that fire lit because it meant that we meant business and we were here to protest in a real effective way that not only like disrupted the actual policing, but like where they had to like retreat, like to bring it to them, to let them know that we mean business. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought about.
Yeah. There was fire, there was flames, but there was community. And this everything else.
Yeah, it's like it's on fire.
Janine. Like, hey, the house of pain.
Okay.
Like Janine. Like house of pain, like that Janine, but not like that. But yes, house of pain, not house of pain. Hopefully that's
Yeah.
you know it. And then,
I'm Stevie.
see,
So it comes to mind is definitely my most recent breakup.
oh,
Yeah, it's all good.
but
We're
you're
good.
here, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
You don't need that person. That's growth, that's a lesson.
Yeah, so coming from that, I'm a really independent person, so it's nice to like do things on my own again. Like I was running every morning.
Yes. It's your help.
Yeah, I found the beauty in like, oh no, I get to pick out like my own apartment. Her and I were looking for places together, so now it's just like it's like my time, so it's good.
Yes, your season of singleness. I'm very much into therapy. Instagram. You can't tell. And just therapy in general. Very big on therapy.
Did you say Instagram therapy?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. You can call me
The
on
like
that.
infographic.
Yes, like the black female therapist. She's
Okay.
like, you don't have to be a strong black woman all the time. I'm like, I don't have to be a strong black woman all the time. That's correct. Thank you for giving me permission. Because you have to be given permission.
I'm trying to think about it.
Yes. And I love all the examples for you. I like that we had like
Someone from YouTube that's watching in said it would be amazing to have this prompt and to speak at colleges and high schools. Because unfortunately there is not enough support there for Black youth and young adults who would benefit from an outlet. Like how that is true, because when do our young adults get to benefit from like those breakups and how to find like still like joy in their first relationship, you know, being over.
That's true. Especially if you're like in a PWI or like you don't have your media. Love is hard. Life is hard. Relationships are hard. But they just remind off yourself.
Bringing it to the screen now.
I think that's really get me just started. We do have a long list of events that are on when we're there. But that's why I do it that time. For the meeting. Yeah. No, I really try to find
First
that
relationship is all they get.
Yeah, I work with H26 MSP. It's a writing center, and then I'm the manager at Writing at South High School. So that's actually how I met we have a young authors with projects anthology program. This particular project is explicitly for Black diaspora youth, so I get to manage that program, which is really exciting. But we brought in, for a virtual author visit, and that's how I was like, and it's crazy because he actually knew some of my students. And they were like, oh yeah, Kino, like, how do you know Kino? Because I've done work with Black female artists for years, but I never actually met him. I was like, how am I gonna work with you? And I'm like, I don't know. It would be like this.
All right, y'all, take a few moments and bring it back.
What's happening?
Awesome. All right, y'all, take a few more moments and we'll bring it back. A few more moments. Cool. Oh, y'all sharing and stuff? Cool. Awesome. All right, Black people. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all. My bad. Awesome. Just want to make sure everybody had a chance to share and stuff. All right, y'all.
Listening who are on camera, any of you want to speak?
It's all good. Just wanted to check in, make sure everybody had a chance to. Cool. Awesome. All right, y'all. So I would love to hear what are some things that came up in conversation. If we could just have a go around and say our names, you could say your pronouns if you would like to, and reflecting on this question, the last time we were in a place that was being broken or destroyed, but found beauty there, found something of use. Let's start with the folks on Zoom, and then we'll bring it to the room. Folks on Zoom, anyone want to kick us off one time for the one time? Anyone wanna? And then,
Yeah.
awesome.
So I'm Ty Chapman, he, him. Yeah, and one thing I heard echoed from a few people was, including myself, was kind of being in a mental state of brokenness, and kind of the chrysalis that you go into and like trying to shift that state of mind and approach life in different ways, and kind of the simple beauty in that.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else on Zoom? Anyone else on Zoom want to share, introduce themselves? Whoever wants to dive in one time. Whoever wants to take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Mo, they, them. I was thinking about like a really kind of close, immediate space of ruin over at Mill Ruins Park, and being in that space in the really early days of spring and sort of watching the last bits of snow melt and the first blooms on trees, as sort of like a really immediate exercise in noticing beauty, to kind of move out of that space of mental brokenness that Ty spoke of.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love where folks took that check-in question. That's, yeah. Absolutely. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else on Zoom want to check in with the people?
I'll check in. Yeah. My name is Idera, and this question immediately threw me off. I was like, oh, snap. However, I'm currently on a leave of absence from teaching, which is probably the last thing I could ever imagine myself doing. And it was really hard, obviously, because I am an educator through and through. But the beauty was being able to fully participate in mothering every day and finding so much joy and peace and calm in that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing, Idera. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. Anyone else want to take it away, folks on Zoom, before we bring it to the group? The last time you were in a place that was being destroyed but found beauty there. Anyone else on Zoom want to take it? Cool. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all checking in, folks on Zoom. Appreciate y'all being here. Let's bring it to the big group. Whoever wants to take it away. Our name, pronouns. Last time we were in a location that we felt was broken but found beauty there. Anyone want to kick us off? Awesome.
You want me to like project? You want me to yell?
Projection would be awesome for the folks
so
on Zoom.
like
Yeah.
Cool. So hi everyone, my name is Janine Erickson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also an educator. So the educator that just spoke, I feel you. It's been a year from hell and back. So really vibe with you, really feel you and want to hold you. Not obviously in physical space, but in virtual, hybrid. But I just kind of talked about the concept of, I think a lot of us actually just kind of talked about the idea of relationships and also healing, and how there can be a beauty in that as well. But for me personally, I just kind of talked about my experience as a transracial adoptee, and that the relationship itself can be a very broken thing, because not when you are a transracial adoptee, you identify with that experience, there's very much a brokenness of not having your caretaker, your parent, or whatever, be able to hold your blackness in its entirety, and that is a harmful act, right? But there's also beauty in it, because they can't hold that for you, it almost is liberating in the sense that you get to be the one that defines that, and it doesn't have to be defined by others. So that's just new to me. But I won't speak for other people's experience here, other than the chance to speak from their own experience. But I would say a theme of healing and relationships and community was definitely what we talked about in our group before. But yeah, nice to see y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 Thank you for sharing, Janine. Anyone else in the space want a quick one-time check-in?
Forward of the last, and I would like to tell off what me and Simone had brought to the table. station was burned down, finding beauty and seeing people come together to speak against police brutality or no loss of life. But what really was beautiful for me to see was when I was at the verdict, you know, and you see the National Guard on the towers with their guns. You see there was a few brothers that was on their knees crying in reference to the verdict, and you see so much anger in everybody's eyes, like before the verdict, and you see so much like peace, tranquility, and happiness, knowing that justice was served in relation to that.
Absolutely.
That was a broken situation due to the fact that a man lost his life.
Yeah.
It was beauty in seeing people of all different nationalities, all different communities coming together to, protest against something that's wrong.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing. Anyone else want to check in? One time, real quick? All right, y'all. Absolutely. Yeah.
I just talked about the fire,
Mhm.
the station actually burning down,
Mhm.
how we like as a community did that,
Mhm.
and like how we kind of celebrated and masked in the
Mhm.
flames and like actually came together and was like,
Mhm.
we did this. Like
Mhm.
this is something that needed to happen. This is
Mhm.
something that needed to be done, but also just kind of felt like a bonfire for us.
Okay.
Where we like did something, we accomplished something, and we took it to the problem. We took the
Mhm.
problem we had with the police to the police,
Mhm.
where they were treated, and it told a story that was authentic and shared.
Mhm.
And we just came together as a city and celebrated that.
Absolutely.
It was broken, it was messed up, it was fire everywhere, but
Absolutely.
the flames were kind of
Yeah.
brought us together.
Appreciate that. The flames brought us together. I love how creative y'all approach the check-in question. Yeah, y'all took it places that I wasn't even anticipating for sure. So why the check-in question? Why check in about a location that was being destroyed that we find beauty in? This is the story of Palestine, and we're going to be talking about Palestine. And what's the story of Palestine? One of land, of local police, of an exilic people. And exilic is a word that pertains to exiles, outsiders, those who were dispossessed. When we think about Palestine, we're thinking about one particular year, 1948. What happened in 1948? 300,000, around 300,000 Palestinians evicted from land to what is talked about today as the Gaza Strip. So much in the world is going on in Palestine right now. Recently, folks are being really under a military occupation. But that's not all the story. There's a story of resistance, of arts, of solidarity, of coalitions. So anyway, what I want us to do is just write down 3 words or 3 sentences or 3 phrases that come to mind when we think about Palestine. Anything that comes to mind. Questions. It could be questions. 3 things that come to mind when you hear the name Palestine or Free Palestine. Top 3 things that come to mind. Just take some time to do that, and then we're gonna share out.
I missed the last one.
No, it's all good. You totally fine. Just top 3 things that come to mind when we think of Palestine, and whatever that is. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's one right here if somebody. Oh yeah, there you go. It's all good.
We just have an extra one up here.
Yeah, no problem. Thinking about what comes to mind when we think about Palestine, and particularly, does anything come to mind when we think about Black folks in Palestine? Comes to mind. And again, these could be questions. Maybe it's, I want to know more. I want to know, the Black freedom fighters that spoke on behalf of Palestine, or the timeline, the history. Take a few more moments. Wait, say that again. What's your question? Yeah, I mean, it's a space for Black folks, but yeah. Cool. Few more moments. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, folks. I am curious to see what came up for folks. What do we know about Palestine? 3 things, even if it's questions, that's perfectly fine. Anyone on Zoom want to kick us off with what came to mind real quick one time? Any folks on Zoom, things that came to mind when we thought about Palestine, Blackness in Palestine? Any questions that came to mind? Any initial feelings that came to mind? Anyone want to take us away? Want to share out?
Well, for me, I actually visited Palestine in 2012, so it's a visceral feeling to see what's going on now, because there was so much violence when there wasn't a state of war. Of course, at that time, we were not able to go to Gaza, but it's just criminal. I mean, all of it is criminal in terms of how Israel is treating Palestinians, but Gaza with the blocking, with so many people in such a small bit of land, and they're completely defenseless. But when I was there, I really got a sense of what it must have felt like during Jim Crow to go in, a Black segregated area and then go to a white area. You could see it in the landscape. So Palestinians had these barrels on their roofs because they didn't have enough water. And then you cross over into Israel and their green lawns and, just plenty of water. And meeting Palestinians knew
Yes,
exactly where their home was in 1948. And having the keys to their home and knowing that someone else was living in their home. And for many Palestinians, especially those in Jerusalem, how more Jewish Israelis were encroaching on their houses today. So it's really a feeling of solidarity. Yeah, I'm in solidarity with these people because I understand what it means to be oppressed. And in terms of Blackness, my thing was I wanted to take as many pictures as I could to show people. I was like, okay, Jesus could not have been white and been in Palestine. And I don't know who it is that said, some scholar said that Palestinians knew they were in trouble when Jews left that area and came back white. They didn't leave white, but they came back white because of their diaspora and that advocacy. They no longer had the same viewpoint of oppressed people across the board. And I'm saying, when I say Israel, I do mean the state of Israel, because I know that there are individual Jewish Israelis who do not support the government position. But, even in terms of roadways, Palestinians really just have to go around the world in order to get to their homes, because they don't have roads that are open to them. So
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope you could get something from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First-hand account. Absolutely. Anyone else on Zoom want to share out things that come to mind when we think about Palestine? Anyone else on Zoom want to share out?
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Pamela, for sharing that experience. Yeah, I really appreciate that, because one of the things that was just immediate connection for me in response to that question was settler colonialism and open air prison. And just thinking about, how you're saying like that there's that literal immediacy of someone living in your house. Like, just, it's immediate, right? It's right there. It's not a metaphor, Yeah, I felt that deeply, and I see that there, and just the imagery of what occupation actually looks like, and the imagery to me, when I look at, because I've never been to Palestine, so I only know from photographs and media coverage, but they look so starkly similar to me to the photographs that I've seen of apartheid in South Africa, and the conditions in which Black South Africans still live, and to live in an open air prison, right? There's this like enclosure, and the way in which this mechanism of like permanently and definitely incarcerating people, as just the way that states are dealing with conflict, right? Like, is bizarre, and that people continue to be sort of positioned in this way as disposable. I think for me, it resonates really deeply with Blackness in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you sharing that. Absolutely. Anyone else on Zoom want to share out 3 things that come to mind when we think about Palestine? What's going on in Palestine? 3 things that come to mind. Anyone else on Zoom want to share out one time? Anyone else on Zoom before we open it up? Okay, cool. I'm gonna bring it to the room. Folks want to share out things that came up when we thought about Palestine, reflections, what's happening. It could be a question. Anything else that came up? Simone, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Who is fighting who / who waged the war? Like what happened? Like why y'all bombing people? Who waged the war? What can be done to end it? And are they our allies? And will we help?
And will we what?
Help
them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after Germany's Holocaust, I think that Israel, a certain group of Israeli people that wasn't the people of that land were given that land, and the people who were of that land were kicked off that land. And over the 100 years, there's been a war over the Holy Land. And in it, I know Israel has they have a very paramilitary troops that enforce it by killing people. So so the words that came to my mind when I thought about it was about how it's war-stricken, courageous, because in the face of fighting against drone attacks, like when you take on NATO, like you're taking on a very powerful entity, and to take them on, like you're courageous, and I see them as forgotten. I feel like most people, don't really, there's a bias toward them. Most people of Christian faith would rather support Israel. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of important questions there. A lot of important questions. A lot of points to talk about. Absolutely. Anyone else want to share? Yeah.
I think a lot about like freedom. Because something that's come to mind is like the fact that Israeli soldiers have trained with like U.S. police officers and military, and a lot of the tactics used against us, like tear gas and like all those things, are also used over there. And it seems like there's a huge like intersection of the violence being used there and the violence that's been used here. So it makes me think of like freedom, because we can't get to freedom for Black people without getting freedom for Palestinians. Because all
Absolutely. The nation state we're under is in cahoots with the nation state they're under, both in financially and in with military weapons. Absolutely. Anyone else want to share out? Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
It makes me think about like the violence of neutrality, like so like that quote that's about like if you're not supporting the suppressed, like you're supporting the oppressor. I've seen a lot of that, and I thought it was social media because I mean that's where I'm getting all my information, like for Instagram, just how things can be funded or how people are. I can see both sides.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna go right here then to Jim.
Part of the Israeli army, and they go to college, but she was a woman, and she took time off from school to go and train. So it's almost like a birthright for them to protect the country. So each religion feels like it is their birthright to name their land. And this is ingrained in your community to read the stories of a present stomach. It shows how ingrained the belief system is and how the fight up until death, no matter what you're doing, is so important. So I just don't see that an alliance coming, a real alliance coming soon because of the culture.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. How do we cultivate sensibilities of communalism and cooperation underneath the repeated doctrine of not that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is I really love what everyone's already been saying, but I just think a lot about, especially like the neutrality piece, like Biden's like complacency with it, and the U.S. is like being basically in bed with Israel as a nation state. And again, to your point about being a lawless nation, so to speak, and still being very entrenched in Christianity over the course of that. And then also, I just think about some things I wrote was like, firstly, that blackness is not a monolith. This pandemic that is anti-blackness is a global phenomenon. Then I also think a lot about weaponizing whiteness and how whiteness has had to evolve and expand. So if you think about like the Holocaust, and like I was watching this video of this Jewish white woman, and she was like, if you knew anything about like Auschwitz, you wouldn't be saying these things. That's like, what is a genocide? But we only label things genocide if it's happening to white people. Just like we only label, like if it's happening to whiteness and the oppressor, we suddenly care. Like, how can you, as a quote unquote similarly oppressed person, commit the same heinous acts against people that have that shared experience? And because of whiteness and the rationalization that there is a superiority and white supremacy is inherently dangerous. And I also just think of, I haven't had the opportunity to go to Palestine, but I have gone to Cuba, and thinking of the U.S. empire, the impact that the blockade still has on the African people to this day, and the death that it still sustains to this day. And I think I had to learn that too. And I think for especially like descendants of slaves and Black Americans, and even just dealing with like blackness as a diaspora, even in the U.S. context, we have to remember that blackness is not just a U.S. It is a U.S. construct, but it's not limited to the U.S. And that blackness and anti-blackness more explicitly is something that we all have to fight for. And to your point, Joanna, like if we won't be free until everyone is free. And I think that is where the failures of our predecessors is when you try to tackle oppression from a monolithic state, you are doomed to fail, because that is the infrastructure of white supremacy that all intersect. So until like literally every single one of us is liberated, and more explicitly until like Black diasporic folks are liberated, no one will be free. So
absolutely. All right.
I think we often forget that we have a role as well as very much, yes, blackness is a marginalization, but it's also a privilege, because being a U.S. citizen in and of itself is a privilege. And that is why we as a people have no choice but to speak out against the violence that is Israel as a nation of violence.
All right. Appreciate it. Absolutely. 100%. I'm gonna go right
The two things what I touched on is similar to the three things I wrote down was religion, politics, and misunderstanding. Part of misunderstanding comes, I'm sure there's war, so there's some kind of misunderstanding of what women. I think my misunderstanding, I don't know, like she says, the full scope of things, right? You mentioned 1948. Where does one begin to understand the dynamic of this? Should one start at 1948, or should we go back to biblical terms, or so forth? You know?
Yeah.
So if we're speaking about questions, that's a question. I feel embarrassed in some ways that I'm not as abreast to what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. I mean, we're really talking about 2,000 years. And I mentioned 1948 because that's when the nation state was founded of Israel. But the 20th century is a story of the Holocaust, you know. So what I love about what Janine said is, does the nation state serve as the container for repair? Because that's part of the story. Catastrophe, you know, visited Jewish folk, homeland. Does the nation state serve as the proper container for repair? Or do we need a different set of relations? Do we need a different container? You know, and what would be the word for that? Would it be, you know, solidarity, mass movement, you know, liberation? I'm just saying, you know, like, what is the nation state the proper mode to repair the harm? You know, just so like these are the things that we're talking about, right? So, but what does poetry have to do with this? Where does the poet come in? Where does June Jordan come in?
Where does Audre Lorde come in, and Tony K. Bambara, and folks who have had a global perspective of world making? So I'm going to share a poem by a poet named Noor Hindi. And I'm gonna drop it in the Zoom chat for folks on Zoom. 1 second. Gonna drop it in the chat. I'm just gonna pass this around. And if folks could just take a copy. And let me see. Well, I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, that's right there. I'm right here. Oh, of course.
1 second, folks on Zoom. And what I want you to do is read the first poem on the handout. Boom, boom, boom.
Donna Ray from Facebook says solidarity is needed.
And then, you know, the first poem, the one that's a fuck your lecture.
Yep. So the first poem is titled "Fuck Your Lecture." Excuse my language. And this poem has been popular on social media, given the current events in Palestine. 1 second. And what I want folks to do is just read it and write down anything that sticks out to you. I'm gonna drop it in the chat. 1 second. Okay, 1 second. Where's the? Okay, let me know if y'all can see that. It's in the chat. Can y'all see the poem in the chat? I can also share my screen real quick. Can y'all see this? Okay, cool, awesome. And write down anything that sticks out, any questions, words that stand out to you. Okay. The words got small?
Yeah, they got really small.
Okay.
Okay. No, that was good. I think it was just really.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. What's up? I know, right? For folks just arriving at Zoom, we are reading the poem on the screen and taking notes on whatever sticks out to us. It's about Palestine, and then we'll share out.
All right, y'all, take a few more moments. Take a few more moments. Take a few more moments. Cool. Cool. Awesome. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all reading the poem, sitting with the work. So we're talking about Palestine. And what do we know? We know the story of Palestine is the story of a exiled people. The word that comes to mind is exilic. If you are exilic, you are in a constant state of exile. You are the outsider. But also the story of Palestine is the story of poetry and communalism, is the story of resistance and coalition and solidarity. And the poet responds to these conditions. Is there someone in the space that would just like to read the poem real quick? Nice and loud so we could just hear it. Anyone that would just like to read the poem one time for the one time? Awesome, nice and loud whenever you're ready.
Colonizers write about flowers. I tell you about children throwing rocks at Israeli tanks, seconds before becoming babies. I want to be like those poets who care about the moon. Palestinians don't see the moon from jail cells and prisons. It's so beautiful, the moon. They're so beautiful, the flowers. I pick flowers for my dead father when I'm sad. He watches Al Jazeera all day. I wish Jessica would stop texting me Happy Ramadan. I know I'm American because when I walk into a room, something dies. Metaphors about death are for poets who think ghosts care about sound. When I die, I promise to haunt you forever. One day, I'll write about the flowers like the ocean.
Noor Hindi, absolutely. Palestinian poets. Let's talk about it. What are some things that resonated? Some words that stuck out? Some images? Some questions? What are some things that resonated from what we just heard? Anything? Whoever.
One thing is flowers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think of beauty, flowers is one thing that really comes to mind when we're talking about, during the check-in, I said being able to notice the purple flowers in my neighborhood was the beauty out of the brokenness of the pandemic. So that's really what jumps out at me. And maybe also the irony that one group is armed with flowers, while the other is armed with weapons of war.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. The poet uses imagery. If you are a poet, your skill set oftentimes is located in imagery, the vivid, the beauty on the various contexts. Anything else that stuck out in the poem? Yeah.
Yeah, just the visual of seeing like children throwing rocks at tanks. You know what I'm saying? Just innocent kids, and like I'm picturing like the anger in their eyes, like as they're throwing rocks at tanks, and they're not being afraid. And it also calls me. I remember when I was incarcerated, I remember seeing a newspaper article, a revolutionary paper, and on it I seen dead babies.
Wow.
You know, dead. So when these drone attacks happen, you know what I'm saying, at times children are killed.
Wow.
There's a history in war where children, women, whoever are murdered. So when I seen that, I just pictured, you know, what is that child's fate? Will that child even make it to be 12 years old? Will he get, they don't care. They kill whoever.
Yeah. Absolutely. Engaging that heavy reports of what happens under occupation. Anything else that stuck out in the poem? Oh, yes. Whoever on Zoom wants to, yep. Darity, you want to, yeah?
Yeah, so the tank part. So my grandmother's name is Daisy, so immediately the word Daisy stuck out.
Mhm.
But I had to like keep rereading those lines. And then the imagery of like these angry kids throwing these rocks, but then it was seconds before becoming daisies, like this image of death came to mind, and like my heart broke after I reread it. But it was so powerful in the way that it was written. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's beauty that's so grievable, you know. It's beauty that kind of grieves in the way the poet is, able to describe that. Absolutely. Anything else? Things that stuck out? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It feels like being dark skinned. It feels like being black and outcast. And then when you walk in with a certain uncomfortableness to some people, and then it feels like, are you dying? Because you are in this space, you are participating in this space, knowing that you're not wanted in this space. And it feels like just your mere presence is like literally killing something. So for you to be American and walk into the room and feeling something, feel as though something died. That really stuck out to me because I mean I have an American experience, and being in Minnesota, right, where there are a lot of white spaces, that to do day-to-day stuff you have to be a part of. It feels like a little bit of me dies. It feels like something in the room dies when I'm there. So that stuck out to me the most. I know I'm American because when I walk into the room, and it also gives the imagery on how Americans love guns. They love war. Like they literally are watching this 24/7 on CNN, just like Trump porn. It's really weird. Really weird.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm gonna go to Janine. Did you?
Yeah. But actually, did you want to say something? You're not spoken. You go first.
No, that's fine. Yeah, so she spoke on that really, out of everything, I think that's like the one thing that really moved me when I heard the part about I know about American because when I wanted to do something violent. What really, as I looked through everything, what really spoke out to me the most is the sentence before the end. It says, when I die, I promise to hunt you forever. And I feel like when we think about like war, the root of it is hatred and anger and you know, like we think some people think the war is going to solve something, but it's like generational. You know, it's this repeated cycle. You know, of this issue that we have as humanity, and I feel like even though whoever wrote this talking about flowers and daisies, and Palestine is going to see the move from jail cells to prisons. I just feel like it's just a disadvantage, you know. And I feel like she was saying, like being, black in America is like it's always this challenge of okay, are they judging what why they're looking at me this way? Like, can I get promoted in this company? Like we're always like trying to figure out what's the reason why, like what's this challenge that we're dealing with on an everyday basis of being black. And it's very deep. I mean, there's a lot of different things in it, but I can understand from a certain perspective of being black, not so much of the warfare or just fighting and killing and throwing rocks, but I can understand this pain, and this anger, and certain things that we don't have answers for, we tend to get into something else and try to fulfill them. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's going to be a generational cycle. You know, like, even the man we're talking about the children. So it's passed down from generation to generation to generation. And it's like, what can we do to stop this?
Absolutely.
How is this going to end? And that's what I got to get from when I look at the home. It was a profound. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I really love it. It reminds me of like the hate you give and the hate you give plus everyone and like generational, like what is our legacy? Our legacy is just nature and how we go from that. And then also it was like the talk we started with like beauty and the brokenness. And I think like what makes Blackness as a lived experience also a construct, right? Because Blackness was a construct to survive, especially because I think about when I think about like the divide in
Hey, see?
like after
Can you turn off the
it's almost like
turn off the
envy to identify with the American experience of Blackness and the envy to know where you come from. And both parties are being fucked over by white supremacy and our colonial imperial history. But I also think about colonizers write about flowers, right? And I think about history classes, they don't work in education. And I think about how frustrating it is to be a Black body person in education. And like, don't get me wrong, like, obviously like I like to move under the privileges, but still like even that, it's just like even me being a more quote unquote palatable form of Blackness is too much in white Minnesota, and it's too much for my white colleagues. And even like the line here is like, I wish Jessica would stop texting me happy on them. I think all the bloody emails that I get from white women at my job, being like, I stand with you, like, why don't you go tell others to shut the fuck up? Like, you can stand with me and actually do something. Because I went on the XPT at South High School, and I remember when we were murdered, I remember like, my white parents in the suburbs being like, are you safe? Like, first of all, I live in St. Paul. Second of all, it's not happening on my street. Like, what? But there is like a generalization of Blackness when it serves whiteness. And just the fact that like Black people can't be individuals. We always have to be representative of our entire community, which is not expected of white Americans. And the people I know I'm American because I walk into rooms and something dies. I think of Dr. Bettina Love speaking on spirit murdering. And as someone walking and living and working in education, I think about how many times I have to kind of kill myself and how many little deaths will take and how many times we have to like basically put our phone on display just to justify our existence. And I really like push back against, especially like some of my older colleagues that are also people of color, both Black and non-Black POC, and just like this tendency and this desire to be like, this is my trauma, this is my truth. I'm like, I love that for us, like, and this is for the purpose, right? But I'm no longer interested in trying to convince white people that like I have a life that matters. Like that's not my job, that's not my prerogative anymore. But I think I just don't have anything else. Like I have young children of color come to me in emails telling me all their trauma. Like you don't have to prove to me that your words like healing and peace and like kindness. Like I just believe that default, but unfortunately that is not the life they live. And then even just as last time, one day I'll write about the flowers like we own them. I think about ownership and who has the right to own things and who doesn't. And I think about land and even like indigenous people's relationship with land. And like how we have very much converted, like capitalism in and of itself is literally the conversion of slave labor. The only reason the U.S. is a developed country, so to speak, is because of free labor that was exploitation of Black and brown bodies, because of genocide, because of all these things. And you literally go into education, supposed to be the great equalizer. But for like my indigenous students, education is trauma. Like you think of like boarding schools, the re-education camps, education for Black people is trauma. And yet it's also like a lot of ways a way or a path or means to liberation. So it's just like I think a lot, and I really appreciate those conversations. So I thought about a lot too.
Absolutely, y'all. Appreciate y'all sharing and having this conversation. And the question then is, how do we not fall into despair? How do we see hope as a collective project? How do we see Palestinians and Black folks as historic subjects, meaning that they have agency? They're all writing the poems. Poetry is dangerous and subversive because in poetry we find common cause. We find hope. Hope is subversive because then you have agency. You have collective possibility. You can organize a protest. You can see a boycott happening. You could see these, tactics being possible. So what I want us to do is
let's think about our own sort of writing in light of the conversation that we just had. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give y'all a writing prompt. We're gonna write for a little bit, check out one more handout, and then share out. So first, the writing prompt. The writing prompt has to do with our check-in question. The place that we've experienced that was in the process of being broken, was in need of repair, but we found beauty there, right? We found some sort of beauty there. So that's what the writing prompt is about. The writing prompt is this, and you can remix it if you want. You can take it as it is. In this particular place, between the broken, I see, or you could say I feel, or you could say I hear, right? In this particular place, between the brokenness, you could say broken, between the brokenness, I see, or I feel, or I think about, or I imagine. And again, you could think about a place in your community, or you could think about a mental place, or you could think about a spiritual place. But things emerging under constraint, or, yeah, so just see what comes up.
Have you met Donald this year for the No Future Without Art?
The movement has first conversation was around going to all brown people for some kind of issue.
Mm. All right, black folks. All right, black people. Take a few more moments. Whatever you have is fine, even if it's just a feeling. Take a few more moments to sit with the language that just emerged from our conversation. And whenever you're in a place to just share with someone near you, just share whatever you have with someone near you. Folks on Zoom, take turns in just sharing with each other in this virtual space, and then we'll share out. Yeah, whenever y'all ready, take y'all time, and whoever wants to just jump in and share, feel free to take it away. Folks on Zoom.
Individual, collective, and also generational experience. And I also thought about how we like that being not only in space, but in and I just think about the idea, I remember like especially the conversation with Hope, like I remember I was in undergrad and there was a black facilitator but I was like, how do you mean to hope? She's like, well, you know, like, just remember that you're your ancestors' wild experience because there are people that died in bondage, never seen liberation, but like that refuse to believe that it wouldn't come to pass. And I think that's the thing, is like, I may not see the labor, the fruits of our labor in this current collective moment, but I have to have faith that it will one day come to pass. Even though I'm not a religious person, I do believe in like manifestation and like just the idea that like we all collectively come together, like we would be of course unstoppable, and that is why white supremacy is so insistent on keeping us apart. Because it recognizes fears and understandably fears the power that we as both collectively and individually and all those other intersections as marginalized people have if we're actually together and have true solidarity. We would be unstoppable. But unfortunately, we have to kill a lot of ego before we can get to that point. That makes me think a lot about like black liberation movements, like the fact that they like had to feel represented and MLK and Malcolm X because black unity is about solidarity, but also because black power is so critical. Yeah, right. Yeah, and I also think about one of my principal like issues with like blackness in the American context is just this idea of I think a lot of times we say that we're a unified front when really we're actually perpetuating homogeneity. That's why even when I think of like Black Lives Matter, I'm like that is obviously like it's an organization that was started by true black women and those voices are not represented in the narrative. And that's not what we see. And I think of Breonna Taylor and I think of Ma'Khia Bryant who was just murdered. And I think about like the stark difference, like even with George Floyd, it's to the point of like even to your comments, like it wasn't necessarily justice, it was accountability. And white supremacy will sacrifice white people for the sake of sustaining the larger structure that is white supremacy. So I feel like people are like, oh my god, we did it. We did it, it's done. Like, no, we're not. Like this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is one sacrifice and how many murders. Like so like you literally murdered a child. Like to your right, you murdered a child, but you don't see him as a child. And that's how whiteness functions. And that's why who gets to be innocent and who gets to have a second chance. But yeah, I thought about that. And how especially for people that don't say like the quote unquote prescriptive version of what blackness is or isn't, like where do we stand and like how do we transcend it? Because I think people don't realize that even when trying to have a moral experience that blackness has to be this, it's also the reason why we're colonization. Because it was the role of colonizers to try to understand what they didn't understand. And even the contract of whiteness was a tool to colonize people. Right. There's this need to I think we talk about this a lot like try to make black people palatable to white people, right? And so when there's certain black people like
time where like he was murdered by white people. We don't really talk about it because we don't
have
think
to
that
portray
they
the victim
right.
because she tried to defend. Even that, the criminalization of Black folks, and even the divide, and even like you have classism, you have colorism, you have all these physics, right? And I think Black people forget across our various identities, both collective and individual. Like you can still have intersections of privilege within your marginalized identity as a Black person. And I think what's frustrating for me as a queer Black woman is just the idea of like, I'll have people that are supposed to be in solidarity with me, so cis like het white women and cis het Black men, they're supposed to be in solidarity with me. But to have an attempt at the power that cis het white men have, they will sacrifice me. And not even just me, but obviously just like me, but like for a taste of power. And I think what's frustrating for especially, and this is just me as like a cis het, well, not cis het, I get confused with all my terms now, not bad. But like I think with like trans Black women, I did like research on like recidivism rates of Black trans women, and I worked in a predominantly white office. My colleagues are like, we need to de-racialize and de-gender your data. Like that's not the conversation we need to have because when you take those things out, you're literally erasing people. And their stories matter too. And like even when I think about like Black Lives Matter and as well as other bullshit, like it's the same stories being rehashed. When we see like Black love and Black joy, it's very much co-opted for the white gaze. And who gets to be in love is still very much dominant culture within the Black culture as a not dominant culture. And it's just very funny. I'm like, can't we just all get the same access to mediocre plain stories that basically like, that's all I want. I was just like a little bit of mediocrity. And like I talked about Blackness being revolutionary, but like why does my life have to be a political statement when I'm just trying to live? Like why? I didn't ask to be political. Like people are like, you're so political, like I have to have a choice. Because you didn't give me a choice. So here we are. Think of the base that your ancestors made, you refuse to take accountability for. We have Google and all these other things. So it's just like, this is very much me going on a tangent because I'm like,
yeah, it's all good, Janine. It's all good. Yeah. All right, y'all. All right, Black people. Appreciate the conversations that are happening. So quick check-in. Would folks like to share what they wrote first or dive into the last handout of the day? Share what they wrote, handout, how are folks feeling? Let's share what we wrote because I feel like that's the space that we're in. Okay. So I know, quick decisions. While facilitating a workshop, it's okay. So let's start with the folks on Zoom first. I would love to hear whatever y'all would like to share. It could be a few sentences, how y'all responded to the prompt. Is there anyone who would like to take it away for folks on Zoom? Anyone who would like to just dive in?
I just got here, so I'm still trying to perk up a little bit after trying to escape the art studio.
Absolutely. How you doing, Donna? Appreciate you being here.
I enjoyed all the fact that all the young people are in there reading it about Palestine and about things going on over there and here and the poets. I like it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, Donna. Appreciate you being here. Always showing up. Anyone on Zoom want to share how they responded to the prompt real quick? Anyone else? Whoever wants to dive in. Whoever wants to, or we could.
You really out here waiting. I can go.
Whoever wants to.
Okay, I'll just share a couple of lines. And I think I changed it just a little bit. In the dark, between the brokenness, I see me unraveling, falling to my knees, collapsing under the weight of the things that I carried. I said carry because I no longer possess those burdens, at least not in this moment.
At least not in this moment. Appreciate it. Can we get some snaps to the poet one time for the one time? Absolutely. Hey. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else on Zoom wanna share what they wrote? Anyone else on Zoom wanna dive in one time? It's all good. All right. We can come back to y'all too. Okay, cool. Let's open it up to the group. Who in the space wants to share what they wrote real quick? I'm gonna go to Simone.
I wrote about what I brought about in the beginning about the conflict where I see it happening.
Yeah.
In this particular place, in between brokenness, I feel the flames of justice lighting a fire under the axe of systematic oppression. I smell the flesh of pigs burning like Sunday morning. I hear the crackle of the blaze waging war on slave catchers. I taste the ashes of the status quo wave in the wind. I see the fear in their eyes. They saw the victory in ours.
I see the fear in their eyes. They saw the victory in ours. Can we give it some snaps to the poet? One time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate that. Anyone else want to share? Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Between the brokenness, I feel dehydrated. My tears drain the salt of my body. My anxiety produces sweat from my palms. My sleepless nights of sirens wet the back of my neck. I have an ever-quenching thirst for reason. My dreams immerse me in the ocean only to wake up drowning in my circumstances. I keep an empty glass for the day it rains peace.
I keep an empty glass. Y'all writing tonight. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Isaac Vincent Washington said, "The genie is out of the bottle, carrying with it messages to the four corners of the earth, blessings and blessings of what is to have self-worth, giving way to ideologies that contribute to the inevitable downfall of the powers that be from their illusionary perch."
Absolutely. Virtual participation. Appreciate that. Anyone else in the space want to share what they wrote? I'm going to go back there.
Soon after the Floyd riots, mouth open wide in laughter, I saw old Ed smiling, even though only a single tooth dangled from his bleeding gum. Demon smoke in his lungs, a substance made by imperialistic Satanists, yet on his shirt was a black fist, a symbol of the fight. A fight against white supremacy, and across the street I see a burnt down building, an act of those tired of senseless killings. And in closing, I say, the eradication of the imperialist bourgeoisie is absolutely necessary because absolute power corrupts absolutely in a system designed to marginalize people of color. There are so many sisters and brothers, penniless and gutters, shuddering under the weight of addiction, homelessness, and mental illness. And that was that piece.
All right. Comes to the poet. Absolutely. Appreciate that. Absolutely. Appreciate that. I'm going to go right here. Yeah.
In this particular place, between the brokenness, I feel the gush of wind blowing across my face, the touch of cold hands clenching onto my fingers, the taste of something burning, trying to rip my tongue out. In this particular place, between the brokenness, I feel hands pulling me forward, out into a space that is ours alone. I feel the promise of emptiness beside me, a home to fill, rebuild, nourish with the nutrients we need to grow. In this place, we all are seeds waiting to become full.
And that was that piece.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Absolutely. Anyone else on Zoom I just want to check in with folks on Zoom. Anyone else on Zoom want to share what they wrote? Okay, anyone else on Zoom before we keep going on? Anyone else in here? Okay. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I said, between 38th and Chicago, I see hope. I see what the devil meant for evil, the people turn to revolution. I hear the chains loosening. I hear the children thinking. I see justice wave. I feel a weight lifted. I see accountability being counted. There's one down and a million more to go. That's all I have right now.
There's one down and a million more to go. Appreciate that. Thank you. Absolutely. I'm going to go to Janine.
Now I don't know if I'm gonna measure up all y'all music comments out here. Wow, this is so lovely. Okay, I'll get started. So, in this particular place, between the brokenness, I see my comrades. I hear the battle cries of my ancestors. I feel their hands guiding me, pushing me to rapture. Perhaps rebirth is more painful than birth and death itself, because in a sense it is both constant and fluid, like my joy, our joy. The act of being Black itself is to be a protest. Whether you march in the streets, dare to thrive rather than survive, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, prayer turned flesh, a manifestation, a proclamation, a call to action. I may not believe in a God, but I do believe in the universe. In this particular place, between the brokenness, I found myself.
No, absolutely. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Poets, absolutely. 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 Anyone else on Zoom want to share what they wrote? I know y'all wrote a few sentences. Anyone else on Zoom want to share what they wrote real quick before we? Absolutely. Appreciate that. Yeah, this has been such a rich conversation. And I so appreciate y'all taking time out of your Saturday to connect and talk about this conversation. I don't go to enough writing workshops about, Palestine and global solidarity. So it's really refreshing that that this brings in so much enthusiasm. So any other things that folks want to share before we close out here? The battery's low. Okay, got it. I thought this was charging. Okay, we'll figure that out. Yeah. Absolutely. Can we give some snaps to every poet that shared tonight? Folks on Zoom as well. So yeah, thank y'all again so much for coming out. So the co-op has so many things coming up, and again tomorrow we have a gathering for Palestine at 7 o'clock. And then we have a bonfire. We have a bonfire coming up next Friday. I think it's next Friday, whenever May 28th is. 2 Fridays from now. Yep, 2 Fridays from now, we have a bonfire, and we have Try and Chill, we have karaoke, we have Embracing Our Roots, we have a cookout on Juneteenth. Questions? Yes. That's a good question. So the Glow is gonna happen. So probably not, but it's gonna happen 2 Saturdays after the Glow, because usually this is bi-weekly, but sometimes the calendar. So the Glow is gonna happen, and then next Black Lives Matter is gonna happen. Any other questions about programming? Things that we talked about? Check out the poet that we covered. There's a great book, Palestine: A Socialist Introduction, which is a really great resource that just came out. Thank y'all again for the folks on Zoom. Be on the lookout for all of our events on our social media. I really appreciate y'all coming out tonight. Feel free to talk to each other, kick it, folks on Zoom. Feel free to hang out. Be on the lookout for more events. Also, this is a pay what you can cooperative. So we're always looking for members. Folks can become members on our website. We get key cards, and then you can beep yourself into this creative facility. So we got key cards and all of that. Thank y'all for coming. Appreciate y'all being here in the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Not me being like, yes, and then stop. Like, I do.
Hey y'all, I just want to say thanks. I'm gonna jump off of Zoom and try and get outside for the last few minutes of sunshine. But I really appreciate this space and everything that was shared. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for attending.
Likewise, thanks, y'all. Sorry, I got quiet. But we're all great.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for being here.
All right, everyone, this is Black Lives Matter. Thank you for joining. This has been a wonderful night. Once again, I'll share the poem from Isaac Vincent Washington. Isaac Vincent Washington said, "The genie is out of the bottle, carrying with it messages to the four corners of the earth, lessons and blessings of what it is to have self-worth, giving way to ideologies that contribute to the inevitable downfall of the powers that be from their illusionary perch." Thank you, everyone that contributed, everyone that watched and shared. Have a great night.